we're back with a major new development in this Diddy rabbit hole. People have been starting to speculate about where all these young kids and teens who were allegedly harmed in the vicinity of Sean Combs came from, especially with eyewitness Tania Wallace claiming to have seen an alleged group of youths dressed as Harajuku Barbies at a freak-off party that she was misled into attending, under the guise of an opportunity of advancement for her music career.
But I can't imagine just being at a party and just wanting to have an orgy where like a million other people could see you. It seems like such an obvious thing to be like, let's go in the other room.
Right. But you know what? With the music and the drugs and the drink, do they even care?
And I was thinking about that. Like if I'm gone off the molly.
I'm talking about gone. Like like
sure,
a rave. Like I've been to these Hollywood parties. You know the parties where you go in Hollywood, like it's like different sections, like it's a R&B, not R&B, like a reggae side, then a techno house music side, then it's a regular mainstream side.
Right.
The music was loud as you go to different sections of the house, it's different shit going on, like a different tune of music. You get what I'm saying? So soon as I walk in, when I see that, I'm like, I was afraid to walk through. But I was still kind of being nosy. Once I seen little people, I said, I got to get the fuck up out of here.
Okay, and that's probably the most explosive thing that you said in the Sci-Fi Underbelly interview, because a bunch of people fucking doing drugs, who cares? But then you're like saying that there was basically underage people. Now, how underage are we talking? Like, obviously, like, teenagers.
I'm not trying to have nobody come looking for me.
Listen,
little.
I'm just trying to, because you're saying little, but you're kind of making it sound like you might be talking about midgets. But it's hard to imagine all these
I would have
people
said midgets then.
having this big freak off. It's hard to imagine that there's like kids involved in that. Nobody's going to say anything. That's crazy. That's like hard for us to kind of imagine.
He's too rich. You got to understand. I looked at it like this. I didn't look at it like, oh, I need to tell somebody. I looked at it like, this is his house. So whatever he do, what can I say? That's like somebody coming to my house saying, I don't like what you got going on in your house. They may not like it, but they can't do nothing about it.
But was this the moment when you were like, oh, okay, I'm going to get the fuck out of here? Or were you already
I was kind of confused because they were dressed up as the Harajuku Barbie. So I'm thinking like, oh, maybe it's a production going on.
I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming it sounds like some anime shit or something.
Yeah, some cute little dolls, like animation. Nicki Minaj talk a lot about the Harajuku Barbies with the bobs and the colorful look like Asian.
Would you have been interested in participating in this crazy public orgy if it wasn't for
No.
that? No, but it sounds like fun. Besides, until you mentioned that detail.
In the room, maybe.
But you wouldn't get fucked up and let the prince bang you out on the couch at the.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Young men and women could be invited off the street to these various functions and grand affairs without raising any alarm. But how exactly would he be gaining access to and allegedly transporting so many children whose parents were either woefully naive and or completely absent? These are generally the main targets for predators, especially if they tend to be trafficked. The most vulnerable of all are those who have no parental involvement and or have been taken away from their parents, statistically speaking. I don't claim to be an expert on these matters. This is just my understanding, and I encourage you to do your own research and draw your own conclusions. I don't know how this evaded my radar in the Diddy and Naomi Campbell video I did, as I had done some serious digging into both of their connections to charities involving children and vulnerable persons. Perhaps because the Internet archives were down for a time, but we're here now. As mentioned in that video, Naomi has recently been banned from acting as a charity trustee after there was misconduct and misappropriation of funds, most especially within the organization that Diddy and Naomi had seemingly formed together called Fashion for Relief. Anyways, there's a lot more in that video regarding Borderland connected to Diddy that's considered a trafficking hotspot, and children's social programs and camps that he had formed and funded back in the early 2000s. I've linked the video in the description. I guess in a way they wanted these finer details to disappear. But in my digging for media for another video, I found these newscasts from the summer of 2016, when Diddy formed the Capital Preparatory Charter School in Harlem, New York, for troubled and disadvantaged youth.
He's had several successful business ventures, but his next, most surprising and some say most significant. Come the fall, you just may bump into Sean Diddy Combs here on Museum Miles, specifically at this building at the corner of 5th and 104th Street. That's when the rapper will open Capital Preparatory Harlem Charter School.
That's real cool. I mean, you're going to be impacting on the community and all that, so I mean, it's nothing but positivity.
Students will soon roam these halls and share space with kids from Boys and Girls Harbor, a nonprofit organization that runs a pre-K and after-school program. Capital Prep will be free and admission is done by lottery, but some admit in general they're not fans of charter schools.
They over-rely on testing, many of them, and I find that many of them are there to break the teachers' union.
In the works for 5 years, Combs met privately with community leaders here in East Harlem and education experts. Though no one was available from the school to speak on camera, many are excited.
I'm surprised. I've been living here my whole life and you don't really see any rappers or anybody giving back to the community, so it's a good thing.
The deadline to apply to the school is April 1st. They'll start with grades 6 and 7 with 160 students, but the plan is to eventually expand to grade 12.
I'm curious what he knows about education and educating inner city youth. I know that there's a couple charter schools where, well-known people in the community have supported it, and that's wonderful. I'm just curious his knowledge of education.
Kimberly Richardson, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
So apparently the school is based out of a school out of Hartford, which has a high graduation and college acceptance rate. So they're going to model it after that.
And Diddy is saying he's hoping that many of the students will go there and they'll shake their tail feather and we'll have more money, more problems.
That's the
Can't nobody hold them
sampling
down.
all of Diddy's music, folks, if you
come with me.
This is known to be one of the most impoverished areas in the city. This is also where Sean Combs was born and grew up, after his father's life was ended at the age of 33, and Sean was only 2 years old. On the surface, the intentions and motives sure seem wholesome enough.
Yeah. By the way, you were at the VMAs the other day. We got to put up this Instagram pic, because there you are. Well, let's see. We got it. Oh, yeah. With some of your closest friends. How cool is that? I mean,
look at this.
Who's not in this picture?
We got Alicia Keys and Swiss Beats, and you got Jay and Beyonce. You got Diddy, Cassie. I mean, you got Kanye, Kim K.
Do you all say to each other, like, "Ooh, let's take a picture"?
No, not really. I just think somebody said, let's take a picture. It's just like if you was out at dinner, somebody just said, let's take a picture.
I've known you like 20 years. As long as I've known you, I know the music thing is important to you. But this thing that is happening in Harlem for you, opening up this charter school, tell me about everybody how much that means to you.
Yesterday, one of my big dreams came true. I always wanted to go back home and open up a school. And yesterday, I went back to Harlem and I opened up my first school, my first charter school. It's called Capital Prep in Harlem, and it's ages 6th through 7th, and every year an age grows. And I feel like that's one of the big parts of the solution is education.
And you've been at this for years.
Yes, I mean, I ran a marathon and raised a couple of $1 million for the New York City school system. I almost killed myself, but
Diddy ran the city, though.
Yeah.
By the way, that picture got so much traction after the VMA. I felt so bad. I felt like I'm missing out on the best party, and then you called me.
Yeah.
And look what happened. He called me and invited me. There I am. Look in the back right. No, seriously. Wasn't that the best?
Yeah.
That was
it was so
dope.
Good to see you.
That was so dope.
Yeah, it was fresh.
Matt brought him more wine and left.
Sir, can I bring you anything else? Sean, it's always good to see you.
Thank you.
Congrats on the tour. Congrats on the school and everything else.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you to everybody. Please come out to the show. Ticketmaster.com. We'll see y'all when you come to your city. Yeah.
I should mention that it was technically officially founded and led by a man named Steve Perry, but was heavily endorsed and sponsored by Diddy to draw interest and more funding.
Good to see you.
How you doing? Good morning.
This is why we love you. You are so versatile. So here you are working on this epic tour, and you're also focused on opening this school in Harlem.
Yes.
Why was this something that you needed to get done now?
I'm just coming from Harlem. It's always been a dream of mine to come back home and to open a school. I just always had that vision in my head. I knew that I was able to achieve to the heights that I was able to achieve because I started out and had a very good education. And I think we just take that for granted, and also we're not dealing with the issues that we are not properly educating our children, especially in the city. So instead of complaining about it, I wanted to do something about it. And so I opened up my own school, and I'm just going to lead by example and try to make the change that way.
It's a beautiful thing. You opened up the school. You opened up the VMAs the other night.
Oh yeah, and the school is called Capital Prep.
Capital Prep.
Capital Prep.
6th and 7th now.
6th and 7th grade. Yes.
The overall goal is to 12.
Yes, overall goal 6 to 12, and then also I want to expand the schools into different cities and countries.
So you opened up the VMAs the other night, and
Yes.
well, first of all, did Drake ever come get his Moon Man? You have the Moon Man.
And when did you learn
Do
he
you
was
still
stuck
have
in
it?
traffic?
Nah, when I was about to go out, they told me he was stuck in traffic. So, no, I mean, he got it. I left there for him, but it was just, no, but it was, you know, it was kind of confusing for the person not to be there, but you know, we handled it well.
Traffic.
Yeah,
Traffic.
you couldn't loan him. You, I'm sure, have a helicopter available. You're the man of New York. Live
I got
in something.
I got a couple of movement, but you know, I definitely felt, you know, sometimes when you get caught in that traffic, you missing, you know.
Missing out.
Yeah, I missed out. Okay.
That was Beyonce's night, was it not?
Yes.
I mean, that was the performance of the night. I think that Rihanna had a bunch of nice ones in there, but if you had, she stole the VMAs.
Yeah, I mean, Beyonce's performance was just incredible. And Rihanna, it was just Rihanna's, I think they shared the night together, to be honest, because Rihanna performed so many times. They had so many great performances. But when Beyonce hits that stage, you know.
For 16 minutes.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
just like, what happened?
Yeah, lights out.
So, speaking of lights out, Kanye, lights always on. Not sure who's home sometimes, but nevertheless, we were all sitting there waiting. You know, the VMA said he could do anything he wanted to do, no holds barred. You know him very well. Were you ever worried, Kanye, 4 minutes, he can do anything?
You know, I just think Kanye's more comfortable when it's not planned.
Yeah.
You know, and I wasn't worried. You know, I was just, you know, expecting to be entertained.
And he wasn't entertaining,
Yeah, yeah.
but I don't know, Tiana Taylor's body
Yeah, Tiana, yeah.
may have upstage Kanye.
Shout out to Tiana Taylor.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to double that, please. Double the shout out.
No, she's from Harlem.
No
also.
trainer
She's
there. She doesn't work out. She says, I don't work out. I eat like macaroni and cheese.
She said she doesn't work out.
No, only dancing.
She had a baby last year, and she said it's just DNA.
And doesn't eat vegetables.
Yeah, she says she hates vegetables.
Wow. Yeah.
Shout out again.
God
I think we'll give her another.
The pair went on to partner and open a Capital Prep in one of the poorest areas of Connecticut, in a town called Bridgeport, and another in the Bronx, another notoriously impoverished area of New York.
Special announcement. Check this out, y'all. I just got the news. I'm so happy. I give all glory to God. Dr. Stephen Perry and myself, we have just been awarded our 3rd charter school, okay? Our 3rd charter school. We have one in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Capital Prep Harbor, one in Harlem, my hometown, Capital Prep Harlem, and guess what? We coming to the Bronx. BX in the house, shout out to the Bronx. We're coming to the Bronx. It's about educating our children, bringing them up as leaders, bringing them up to fight for social justice, preparing them for this world that we live in. I take education seriously. It's my passion. I'm also going to donate $1 million to make sure that the school gets off on the right foot. If you want to hear more information about our schools, Capital Prep, log on to wearecapitalprep.org. I love y'all.
Sean Diddy, Puppy Diddy, Daddy, love Puppy Dub.
Yes.
What are you today?
Oh.
Who are you?
I'm in the spirit today.
Uh-huh.
You have brought me into the spirit, what you have just done for those kids from my hometown, Waffle. I salute you, Queen. You don't know the effect that has on just these kids, especially from the people that don't usually get invited to primetime shows like this to dance and show their skills. And they really from the streets. They're really from where I come from, Harlem, New York. They were doing a cultural dance called a light feet. We see them as future leaders and artists. They could do whatever, and that support that you gave them, it's gonna change their lives, and I wanna thank you.
Pure joy.
Yeah.
It feels good. You know that.
Yeah.
And this is your 3rd charter school, right?
Yes, the name of the schools are Capital Preps. You know, we have 3 Capital Preps. One is in my hometown of Harlem, one is in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and our newest school that we're gonna open in 2019 is in the Boogie Down Bronx.
So good.
3 Pete.
for you to be able to help kids and give this opportunity, give them an education, that's got to feel so good that you're able to do that.
I mean, it's incredible. I teamed up with Dr. Stephen Perry. He's a world-renowned educator, and we're really fighting the battle to give our kids that are from the communities I come from like a fighting chance. So we have a curriculum of leadership and also social justice. We do coding, we do all of the other things, but it's really about working with kids that were like me. It takes me to read a book, I have to read a book 3 times. And some people are like that, you know what I'm saying? And it's just, you have to give that extra attention to the kids. So we work with at-risk kids, and we need donations. People think that, public schools get all the money, but charter schools, get $4,000 less per child. And it's something that's very, very important, something that I'm so passionate about, and I'm excited to be here.
I'm so glad that you're able to talk about it, and we want to help you, so we want to give you $50,000 for your school. Thanks to our friends at Shutterfly. I appreciate it. Sean Diddy Combs, $50,000.
Shutterfly, thank you!
After allegations against Diddy started coming out in November of 2023, they publicly severed ties. But that didn't prevent investigative journalists from uncovering the chaos and dysfunction their school system had been plagued with for years. For what was meant to be an elite education at a top-of-the-line facility that would guarantee college acceptance, what many of these students experienced couldn't be further from what was promised, especially in between the lockdowns. There was a revolving door of teaching staff, frequent violence, criminal activity, and other allegations. The school failed to inform parents about bedbug infestations and exposed other dire details about the students' learning conditions. Diddy and Naomi Campbell, ironically enough, visited the schools to the excitement and admiration from staff and students. These PR opportunities did not make up for what other darkness may have been lingering beneath the facade. It can take decades for young victims to come forward with their stories, especially if they are a troubled youth from a broken home. Most often they'll battle with blaming themselves for the ways they've been victimized, and generally those who've experienced trauma are predestined to struggle with self-medicating and other forms of escapism. I can't confirm that there are any direct ties between the alleged trafficking network Diddy was operating and these schools, but I definitely believe that any organization Diddy was involved with that gave him or his people access to children needs to be heavily investigated.
Diddy in the City Part 2. We are back in the city doing positive, uplifting things. I'm so proud today because the kids don't know that I'm coming to see them. This is the 3rd school that I've been blessed to be able to open in New York, in my hometown, in the Boogie Down Bronx, coming to you live from Co-op City. I grew up just like y'all, and this is one of my dreams. And to see all your beautiful faces, and to see y'all here touching me, I don't want to start crying in front of y'all. This is my family, right?
This morning, we're talking about school choices in Hartford, and today, if you've ever wondered about Capital Prep Magnet School, we have a lot of details on it and also some firsthand experiences. Right now, Principal Dr. Kitsia Ferguson is here along with 12th grader Angie Albin. Thank you both so much for being with us.
Thank you for having us this morning.
Great to have you here. Angie, I want to start with you. You're a 12th grader this year, and you've been going to Capital Prep since 6th grade.
Yes.
What has that experience been like? And as you're sort of nearing your career there, what are you going to take away that's sort of most impactful?
I think most impactful for me in my experience is the sense of home and I think the growth. Just realizing how much I've grown and how much the school has provided for me, so much access to information. It's made connections with family and friends that I thought I'd never have, and it's a very important experience for me that I won't ever forget.
What do you think sets Capital Prep aside from all the other schools in your educational options?
Besides our focus, our theme of social justice, I think the most important thing is that we take action. Many people can say and say what they want, but once you take action and you do part and you take part and you do the project, and we have a specific thing. We have a social justice project, which is our final project. It's like a thesis, and each of us make a change in our community to find what's important about us. So I think that is the thing that prepares us not only for like the real world, but for college, and it's just a great experience, yeah.
Dr. Ferguson, talk a little bit more about that social justice theme and how it's integrated into the curriculum.
It is. And so Capital Prep is a pre-K through 12th grade school. So we start very early with character education in the lower school and teaching children how to be a part of a community and what it means, the responsibility in being in that community. And as kids finish the lower school experience in the 5th grade, they do a capstone project around social justice. Their specific project is the school to prison pipeline. And then as we move forward, we continue to look at our social justice questions. Who am I? What communities do I belong to? How do the communities interact with each other? Ultimately, to the high school level, start talking about the allocation of resources and how the misallocation sometimes often creates social injustices, and what do we do to create balance?
Now, I have to ask you here, Capital Prep boasts 100% college admittance for your students. That is incredible, phenomenal. Absolutely. How do you prepare your students, and also what do you attribute that to?
So we have, our mission is around college prep, and we start our kids in dual enrollment with the community college as early as their 2nd semester, 9th grade year. They can start taking classes at Capital Community College. We have our own academic rigor throughout our high school experience. Well, starting back, but throughout our high school experience, certainly, where kids are taking classes that help to prepare them to develop their voice. It's infused in the regular content, science, social studies, math, science, how do we look at the content through the lens of social justice. But our kids start to take the college classes in the 11th and 12th grade years. We will put our kids out there to participate in internships, and so that they're putting their academic experience into the workplace. And how does that feel? What does that look like? We try to match them up with a career that they might be interested in, or something that's aligned to their social justice project. Our kids also participate in 2 sports each year, and so we create a whole child. And when we go to the table to present college applications, it's, we have a transcript, we have work experience, we have college credit behind us. I think Angie's walking away with about 30 college credits. Wow. And so they have the college experience behind them, and they have a proven track record. So they've been able to balance the academics, the athletics, the college courses, the internships, and that makes for a whole child and a great package to present to colleges as to why they should take a Capital Prep student.
What strikes me as the most concerning is that it's rumored that Oprah was a silent partner with Diddy and an advisor regarding this endeavor. She had opened girls' schools in Africa, and we all know how that went. You'll have to dive into that rabbit hole yourself if you don't. We'll take a whole video on its own to go into that one. But it's not really any secret that she's affiliated herself with numerous people and entities that were later accused of crimes involving children.
In 2020, Sean Diddy Combs helped open in the Bronx the 3rd campus to the Capital Preparatory Charter School in our area. Today, he returned to the site to surprise the students and help them kick off the new semester on the right foot. Combs understands the importance of a good education, and he is willing to invest in the students' future to ensure they have a chance of becoming a success. Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Richardson with more from Co-op City.
It is
is not an everyday occurrence, a music mogul dropping by school. But for these students here in Co-op City, this was that moment. The kids at Capitol Prep in the Bronx were over the moon meeting Sean Combs for the first time. You see, this is one of 3 charter schools in this network. It opened in 2020. Combs is co-founder and provided critical financial backing. The entrepreneur tells me this surprise visit was a must-do. He was born in Harlem, grew up in Mount Vernon, and went to high school here in the Bronx.
When you hear about all of the things that's going on in the hood, nobody really asks or gets to what's the solution, what's the problem. And for us, we know that one of the main solutions is a proper education, so they don't lose hope, and so they're not doing things just to survive.
Combs says he was determined to create a place where kids of color would get the support and guidance they weren't getting elsewhere. Admission is by lottery, and to date, all graduates have been accepted to 4-year colleges.
You represent discipline. When people see us, they understand what Black and Latin excellence is.
What's happening here truly is remarkable. Here in the Bronx, 24 students, all 9th graders, are currently taking college-level classes.
Has dominated the music scene for more than 30 years now, and today he surprised students in his old stomping grounds, the Boogie Down Bronx. Take a look. Students at this school in the Bronx went bananas when Sean Diddy Combs burst through the doors. This is not just any school. Capitol Preparatory Bronx Charter School was co-founded by the entertainer himself.
It was just always a dream of mine to come and be able to touch my community in a way of education and building leaders.
This was Diddy's first school visit, and it was hard to tell who was more excited. Students also got a chance to ask the legendary hip-hop star about his rise to the top.
And I'm gonna leave it like that. To all my entrepreneurs, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. All right?
Teenagers were all smiles, but these are tough times for students throughout the city. Gang violence is claiming the lives of young people. They're also dealing with poverty and widespread crime. Diddy, who grew up in the Bronx and Harlem, says gifting the school network $1 million is his way of giving back.
The only thing the United States of America really has honestly planned for those kids is poverty, incarceration, and death. That is the only plan they have for them. Right. And so we're here to change that.
This country will pay 3 times as much money to send one of our children to prison than they will to send them to high school.
This was a reminder to keep staying on track and to not let your dreaming get deferred.
Hey, yo, check it out. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. Get to the bag. Yeah. Where that money at? Get to the bag. Yo. She ain't the one, my love. I guess I gotta move on.
By the way, the Capitol Preparatory Network is a national model for excellence. 100% of graduates are accepted to 4-year colleges.
1, 2, 3.
And this is the second charter school in the Capitol Prep network that Diddy has supported. Back in 2016, he funded a school in Harlem. Capitol Prep Bronx serves more than 160 students, 6th through 9th grade. Black and brown low-income students admitted by random lottery. The first class graduated in 2006, and now they're going to start spreading across the country. Visit We Are Capitol Prep to learn more. So much fun today with them.
There are obviously more dots to connect, and there'll be so much more coming to light in the weeks, months, and even years to come. The time is up. Children are not a commodity. Children are not for sale. Being pulled in so many different directions as far as all these new connections being made within the rabbit holes I've already perused, so it's time to dig deeper, shed more light on the darkness, and find the common denominator of truth.
Yeah, so the video I just sent you, that was a situation where I had a bounty on my head. So basically what happened was a group of guys pretty much ran a train on a girl. She was passed out, underage, and we at the spot. somebody come busting through the door. It's a female. She's like, where Big Homie at? I'm in the back on the couch, sleep. I hear her calling for me. I'm like, what's up? She said, look at this. So she threw me these purple sweatpants. I'll never forget this. And I'm like, what am I looking at? So immediately on the outside of the pants, I see like some like dry white substance. And then like inside the pants, I see a lot of dry blood. I'm like, these are like some little girl pants. What's going on? They did this to my daughter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They bragging about it, making posts on Facebook, calling my daughter a hoe. She an honor roll student. She went over there with her friend, et cetera, et cetera. And she came with a bag of money, bro. Like, she came with a bag of money, bro. Like, and she wanted retribution for this. She called law enforcement and stuff like that. You feel me? I guess they wasn't working fast enough for her. And so we had took action into our own hands. I kind of regret doing this, but then I don't, because like that little lady thanks me every day.
He's just on the left side of this fence. That's where this thing is.
This is a prison cell. Only kids are being held down here.
And they brought me into the camp and showed me the underground bunker. It was basically a giant plastic container with a hole only small enough for a child to crawl in and out of. And it was angled in such a way, and it was buried underground, that a small child that was in there could not have gotten out on their own.
They're having them slide up.
There's a child's vanity and a hospital toilet. That looks like a child's car seat. Strollers and children's toys and clothing and food packets and stuff like that. So clearly children had been kept here. All right, so with these straps. But one thing that was really disturbing was there were arm restraints, wrist restraints on two trees angled like this to where friends of mine that are investigators that do a lot of stuff on the border say, Craig, that's a tree. That looks exactly like wrist restraints for a tree. It doesn't look like anything else. This is clearly a disturbing and wrongful thing going on. It's inhumane. It's shocking and upsetting to any decent adult.
I was involved. The CIA's trauma-based mind control program, people hear the term sleeper assassin and they think of movies, they think of books, they think of all this bullshit that they've encountered in their lifetime. And there's some truth in it, I'll tell you that. But it's a horrid thing. I was involved with assassinations. I was involved with being in kiddie, a lot of pornography I was made to be in, and the government sponsored pornography, child pornography. I was involved with drugs smuggling drugs for the elite like their drugs too. And I was a message courier. I would carry messages for people like Senator Robert Byrd, Charlie Pride, other CIA operatives. And so I didn't start to remember these things until 2017. There's a lot of work, John, that goes into compartmentalizing our memory. Yeah, and so what we're talking about is trauma-based mind control, and it's based around trauma, of extensive, extreme trauma. I also call it human bioprogramming. That's something that John Lilly would refer to it as. I knew John Lilly. He was one of the doctors. He was the head doctor, I believe, in charge of my programming, Dr. John C. Lilly.
Okay.
But the process is extreme abuse. And so in order to make someone who is a sleeper, you have to go through a process. We're not just people who grew up in a normal family and then we joined the military and then we got involved with the intelligence community. We were born into it. And so I was born into the project. My grandfather, he was involved with the Central Intelligence Agency a long way back, I believe from its conception.
Right.
And he brought that into the family. And so I was raised in the project. I was raised up until I was 5 years old in, I can't say in the project because I don't know that for certain, but I was raised under certain precepts of abuse and programming in order to get me to where I could be selected for the program, for the project. I was selected at the age of 5 by a man named Alex Houston. And then I was really what I would say initiated into the program, the project, when I was 6. I was taken to the human bioprogramming, monarch programming facility in Southern California, in Anaheim, at Disneyland. Disneyland's not what a lot of people think it is. It's the opposite. It presents this scene of beautiful joy and color and a wonderful experience, but they're doing things there that are evil, dark, and just unacceptable, illegal, unconstitutional.
What, underground?
So I was,
What, underground, underneath in underground bases underneath the land, or actually in the land, headquarters itself?
yeah, it's in Disneyland, and so it takes place on the rides. There's lots of triggers on the rides themselves for mind slaves, and then a lot of times we'd be taken off the rides, John. And so then you'd be taken under the park through the tunnel system to various rooms where you'd be made to do different things. It may include such things as being made to make kitty. It was all timed. It was really fast. And so you'd be taken off of a ride, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, and you'd be taken under the park. And there was a process to it. They'd start you at one, and you'd go through a process of several different rides in that day or in that trip that you'd be taken off of and be put through programming. My grandfather was often there. He was heavily involved with the trauma-based mind control program. My grandfather worked with Walt Disney on establishing the mind control program there in the park.
Right.
And so there were spaces in the park that my grandfather would develop for the agency that would give to the agency for use for these things. And so,
Wow. So are we saying, would this be happening at a time when it was open to the general public, or would this be like off hours?
both.
Right.
It would be both. And so when you were taken off of a ride, it would be made to look like the ride just broke down. The ride would shut down. It would just stop, but it would stop in a key location where you were going to be taken out of the car and taken down into the tunnel system.
It's kind of short. It's gotten pretty dark. Glow stick. There we go. That's a little better. This is supposed to come up on Tom Sawyer's Island in Frontierland, which in 1956, Disney was said to have given it to the state of Missouri, and the governor of Missouri was supposed to have annexed it. However, the state of Missouri doesn't confirm that. So I'm not sure if we're coming up in California still. It's getting kind of dark, so I'm going to throw my glow stick ahead of me to make sure there's no sudden drops or anything. Okay. Okay. Again. A little bit of a drop. So far, so good. your people. I think I made it. I think I made it. I did make it. I made it. I made it, I made it, I made it. I am in Disneyland. It worked. The cave is real.
For example, on the Alice in Wonderland ride, I can remember Alice being there. We were on the Alice in Wonderland ride, and it stopped right at the smoking caterpillar, right there. And then to the right, to the left is the smoking caterpillar, but to the right is the statue of Alice from Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland is used a lot. See, a lot of cartoons and stuff from Disney are used for Monarch programming. Alice in Wonderland was a big one for me. And so Alice, the figure, there's this statue of her right there to the right of the caterpillar on the right. And there was a girl there. This girl, she was familiar to me. Oftentimes there'd be a girl named Alice, and sometimes it was a different girl, sometimes it was the same one for a couple of years. And yeah, sometimes some bad shit would happen in there, but this girl Alice would be there. And one time in particular, I remember her holding the statue of Alice and asking me if she wasn't more beautiful than the statue. And then I got off of the ride. I was taken off of the ride, taken with Alice. We went down into the tunnel system. Another time I was taken off of the Peter Pan ride. It was just made to look like it broke down. And I was taken off of the Peter Pan ride by these two young people who were dressed up in NASA outfits. They had on some one-piece suits and ball caps that said NASA on them. And we were taken down to a room there. It's in the ship, somewhere near and in the ship. There's a ship scene there in Disneyland, and we were taken under that and made to make photography. I was made to make photography with those two young people, and it's really quick. So they make it look like the ride broke down. And you're always separated out, John, in the cars. And so whenever I'd be getting on a ride that I was going to be programmed on, they would separate cars. So my brother and sister, for example, would get on, and then they would go, and then they'd move a couple cars past, and then they'd put me and my father, or me and my father and my younger brother on the car, and then we would go. And so they create a distance from you, from the other people riding the ride, break down. You'd be taken under the park, you'd be put through this programming, and then you'd be hit with a taser. That's one of the common ways of compartmentalizing your memory, is a handheld taser. I can remember getting hit with that damn thing from the time I was 6 years old. And then you'd also be hypnotized. Hypnosis is a big part of it. They'll hypnotize you to remember to forget those events, and then hit you with a taser and then send you back up. And you're so traumatized from the time as far back as you can remember. I can remember, I have a website that people can go and read. It's free. I feel like this information should be out there. It should be for the public. It's for the public good. It's for reasons of national security, even in my mind. This is what's going on behind the veil of the 1947 National Security Act and the 1949 Central Intelligence Agency Act. These things are all being protected for all these criminals. I want to swear, but I'll try to hold my language.
Yeah, no, thank you for this, and thank you for sharing this. It must be quite difficult to go back into that as well. Can I just ask then, so on these rides, you're taken onto these carts, with on like the track, for the rides. And then you said it's at a time when the public are using these as well. So then they would separate it out. So they'd put you in one cart, maybe they'd wait a couple of carts and put the public in the next cart. And then they would deliberately, malfunction the ride. So then you go down into a hatch, and it goes down They walk you down, or they walk you into a, you know, into an underground tunnel? How do you get down?
Yeah, there's various ways to get down depending on what ride you're on and where you're at.
Right, okay.
Sometimes it was just going down a set of stairs
Hmm.
and then down some hallways that would be sloped, for example, taking you down in elevation. There's an extensive tunnel system under there. And then sometimes you take an elevator. They also had elevators for moving people and personnel down into these tunnel systems. And these are tunnel systems, John, that even the people, the employees at Disneyland use. But there's areas down there in the tunnel systems where they're not allowed to go. Lots of areas where the public, including the employees, are not allowed to go. They're restricted areas. They have restricted access. And so we'd be taken oftentimes through the public, the employee tunnels to another tunnel where it's a restricted area. And then you'd be taken through a door and taken to another area where it was a restricted area.
Right. And are
So
they, would you say that it was just for the children that were part of the Project Monarch mind control program, or did you see the other children from the general public being like kidnapped?
That's a really good question. That's a loaded question because you see a lot of things, John. It's not just the CIA doing this. It's also what I call the elite.
Yeah.
The CIA didn't invent trauma-based mind control. The elite have been doing it for centuries. They've been doing this for years to their own kids. And so you would see people down there that were being programmed, for example, for Hollywood. They'd be being programmed for some elite family for various reasons. And so it's not just the CIA. You also had individuals that were held there. There's human trafficking that takes place there. So you mentioned kidnapping.
Yeah.
I never witnessed, to my knowledge or my recollection, anyone in the tunnels, but I was taken to a room when I was 6 years old off of a ride. It was the Wild Toad ride. And I was taken down into the tunnels and taken to a room. My grandfather was there. Like I said, he was heavily involved with this stuff. He would often meet us there and he would play different roles. He'd play the Mad Hatter, different things like that. The captain, that's something else from Peter Pan. And he would play those roles and he'd dress up in costumes for it. Well, when I was 6, I was taken down there and there was this room I was taken to where it was filled with cages, much like you would see at a zoo or something. And in those cages were children. And those children were held there. They'd been abducted in some way and they were held there and they were being put through some extreme trauma. And they were disposed of. They would be used for programming of the people like me who were being brought down there. And so we'd be made to kill them, or in this instance that I'm talking about now, my grandfather killed a little girl. He said she'd been giving him trouble, and it was all about trauma. It was all about making us be involved with that. And she was placed on an altar there in the room, and her throat was, John, right in front of us and right in front of all the other children in the cages. And so another component that we're talking about that is a difficult thing for people to get their minds wrapped around. It's been presented to the general public as a bunch of hogwash and bullshit. Yeah, it was horrifying. And that would push you into another, we're talking about multiple personality disorder, and we're talking about dissociative identity disorder. This is how they create within you a multiple personality disorder. And the ability to disassociate and enter that multiple personality disorder.
The best metaphor that I've got is that it's like a honeycomb, like all the different compartments in a honeycomb. And it's when you get these different altars, you can kind of move into the different parts. I think they're called, you said compartmentalize, the different compartments. And within those different compartments, there's almost like an amnesiac barrier around each one where you don't remember like being in these different alters. And within these alters, you can program them with different tasks to do. So I think you mentioned super soldier, did you? Or like an assassin or something like that. It could be one. Or you could even groom them in an alter to be a singer or some kind of movie star or something like this, right?
I'll be keeping you all posted on anything related to the Diddy case and the alleged elaborate trafficking network that's being revealed one puzzle piece at a time. More and more folks are becoming aware of the elephant in the room and serving as voices for the voiceless, and that's a great starting point. I'm going to keep making noise, so make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the flip side.